Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Architectural Podcast. We've got an unusual thing today. We're going to talk about our career rather than just talking about architectural technology or technology. So I'm really pleased to have with me Hussein Hallak. Hussein, you've written this really cool book and you've got some great advice for us about how we should be thinking about developing our careers based on your history. So please, could you give us a little introduction to you, tell us a little bit about your book, and then give me some advice if I was maybe in a couple of years to retirement.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, I've written this book because I wanted very much to leave my kids and the people who I haven't got a chance to meet or mentor personally. I wanted to leave them with a summary, if you wish, or an amalgamation of all of my experience building several companies and living a life across 3 cities, having to start my life from the ground up 3 times at the very least, and dealing with a lot of challenges. So I've written this book called The Dark Art of Life Mastery, and it's an easy read, but it's what is somebody said it is simple but not easy. Let's put it this way. So I love the question. We find ourselves in many phases of our lives, and if you are at a phase where you are close to retirement and you are wondering what to do, the first question I would encourage you to ask is, what is it that matter most to you? A lot of times, instead of asking, let's say, what should I do or what's next, you should ask yourself, what do I feel and what matters most to me? A lot that kind of introspection and exploration into who you are as a person, how things change for you, and how you look at. Sometimes we just proceed with things as if this is what it is or what it should be, and we don't come back and check in if the things that matter to us yesterday still matter us today. You may find this advice actually repeated across the board, but I think as someone who's close to retirement, or let's say at a later stage of their lives, success looks differently for them. I am definitely let's say, uh, 50 and above. So what that means is that definitely my life is looking much different than, let's say, when in the mid part of my life or the start of my life. So I would ask, what is the most important thing for you? And then what do you want to do about it? Because sometimes, even if something most important for you, you just want to know it, but maybe you don't want to do anything about it, or you just want to keep it in the background and kind of simmer on it. Definitely engage in more questions rather than answers. It is a fun time of life to engage with what is joy, what is love for me, what is success, what do I want out of work? If any kind of opportunity comes my way, how do I evaluate it? And these are things that when you engage with them, you rediscover who you are again and rediscover the world through those lenses.
It's a really great idea, I think. I think I love the idea of looking that when you get to that later stage of your life, that idea of looking back on your career. There was that famous Steve Jobs speech where he looked back and he said he couldn't realize at the time the dots until he got later in his life, could look back and see the way you could join the dots and these random things that he did, like calligraphy, and how that then impacted his design of the software for
Yes.
the Macintosh. I think you don't know until you look back that these things have all worked together to get to where you are. I think maybe we shouldn't wait till we get to close to retirement to look back. Maybe what we should do in our midlife, we should be looking at, can we join those dots to now and then make the plan for that last half of our life, maybe. Our careers are not going to
Yeah.
last forever. And maybe that's the next thing. So for someone in their middle part, what should they be thinking of? Should they be thinking of the same things as someone who's later in their career?
I don't think so. I think there's a difference right now because if you are, let's say, towards the end of, let's say, what we call career. Now, for me, it's different because I'm an entrepreneur. So I'm always starting new things, which is a lifestyle that I do recommend for people. Even if you don't think of yourself as entrepreneur, starting things is always a lot of fun and you get to discover a lot about yourself and what it takes to get an idea from just an idea to fruition or just advancing it on playing around. I think I'm a big advocate of the play aspect. But if you are in this, let's say, the mid journey of your career, you will find that. So the first thing is that the world is a far more tumultuous and more challenging world than what it was 20 years ago. So if you're at that stage, you're probably wondering, what do I need to learn? How do I keep up? How do I maintain, reach the retirement, maybe doing the things that I love? The way I would see it is it's a great time to not just continue on doing something just because you've been doing it for so long. I don't advocate just change for the sake of change. And I also don't advocate just staying because things are not changing. I would advocate that definitely engage with what matters most to you. Definitely engage with what is it that you want to learn. Not to say that when you're older, you don't want to learn, but when you're at that stage, you still have a lot of that energy that you can start new things with a lot of vigor and a lot of drive. And I would recommend that you would engage with what is it that you want to learn? What are the things that you're really curious about? And I think these things, surprisingly, will open like many different things for you. I started the later part, let's say, of my business journey and my life journey when I was 40. I moved to Vancouver, had to start from zero again. It started as a junior marketer after building several award-winning agencies and content marketing agencies, and had significant clients. Came here, the market didn't recognize my experience. They said, "You don't have Canadian experience." So I had to start from zero. And of course, I hated it. It's like I wanted to start where I was. I wanted to start at my level. But then I adopted this mentality: is what is it that I can learn? And when I opened my mind, I completely took on a complete new career, if you wish. And I became the manager of one of the top incubators in the world, and managed to work with amazing entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs, startups. Some of them exited with hundreds of millions of dollars. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I just continued what I had. It was challenging. It was very demanding, but it was a ton of fun. And it definitely opened a world for me that would not be possible today if I didn't have that start. I was forced into it, just to be completely transparent, but that gave me the perspectives that I enjoy today.
But that's why I wanted to hear from you, because you've been through these things, and interesting to know that those things were challenging, that they are forced on you. My mother used to say that when God closes a door, he opens a window. And you don't realize that when you see a barrier, sometimes that's the best thing that's happened to you, because it is a challenge and it does force you to make choices. But if we look at what you're talking about in your mid-career, it actually sounds quite similar to the later career. That is, what do you want to learn? What do you want to do? The difference is that in your mid-career, you've got some goals you're trying to achieve. And in the later career, you're hopefully close to achieving those goals. Some
Mm.
of those things still sound the same. I love your concept. Don't change for change's sake, but don't stay where you are because you don't like change.
Yeah. The reality is, if I want to be completely honest, I don't know if you feel the same. Like, I'm 50 right now, but I don't feel what I thought 50 would feel, if that makes any sense. Like
No,
I still feel, I sometimes catch myself on my standing desk playing a Michael Jackson song and dancing as if, of course, my body doesn't help me anymore, but I'm dancing as if I was like 20. So I think I am a big believer of that age is a number. And I don't just mean it, I mean, the cliche, but actually, because I'm living it, I don't feel any different about what I want out of life, if that makes any sense. Is that
Mm.
what I want out of life is everything I can have. And I encourage that at every stage of your life, at every year. I think with the idea that I thought that when I get to a certain age, I would tell myself, I'm 50 right now. So that means I have to do one, two, three. This is something I'm telling myself. But if you see me in any event, I'd be talking to, I actually enjoy the company of, let's say, 20-year-old entrepreneurs. And I would be talking to them and making jokes just like I was 20-year-old. I never asked someone to call me Mr. or even like when we're teaching young entrepreneurs, we have a program where we teach young entrepreneurs who are at 13, 14 at high school. I encourage them to call me by my first name. And I treat them as a peer throughout my life when working with my kids. I always asked them to treat me like a peer, and I treated them like a peer. I never acted like I'm older, so I'm more informed or anything. mainly because of that mentality that there is something to learn. I believe the CEO of the incubator where I worked, Ray Walia, said something I really enjoyed at the time. He said, everybody has something to teach and everybody has got something to learn. And if you have that mentality, it's a very powerful mentality because you don't consider yourself, you come into, let's say, right now at 50, almost every event I'm going to, I'm one of the oldest people there, except if, let's say, it's an investment conference where all the investors are old or older than me. But if you have a youthful mentality, which means a mentality that is eager to learn, eager to know, eager to explore the world and see it anew every day, I think that vigor remains in you. The only thing that's different is that I think how the world sees you. For example, if I go in right now to get a job at 50, or let's say to work with someone, you can't help but people seeing you in a certain light. Like people see me and say, oh, you look so young for 50. And what they mean is that they expect you to look older, they expect you to act older, to be slower. That's the world expectations. So I don't adhere to those, and I encourage everyone to explore the world in that vigor. But the world definitely has a perception, and you have to deal with that.
Billy Connolly says that growing old is mandatory, growing up is optional.
I remember hearing that. That's a great quote. Yeah.
And I think but not to pretend you're a child, but to have this, I love that idea. You got that youthful mentality, eager to learn, eager to contribute. And I think that's something that we should keep going through our lives. At the moment, I'm keen to contribute to things. So when we have the planting day in the neighborhood, I get out and I help plant plants because in the future, the area we plant will grow and it's always going to be there. And it's lovely to walk through it and see your contribution. The next thing I'm planning on doing is a repair cafe where I'm not sure what I can repair, but I'm willing to go along and help people repair whatever I think I can help them with. We'll see. I'm not sure what I'm
It's a
good
great
at.
idea.
It's just one of those things that I think, and I've started looking for things that I was thinking about what you said at the beginning. I'm starting to look for those things that give me joy. I
Mhm.
belong to the urban sketching group, so I go out every month sketching. I love going sketching. I love being with those people. Joined a book club. They always make me read a book I wouldn't have chosen. Sometimes it's challenging. But again, you are the group of people who are not normally the ones that you would make friends with. But it's really lovely to be with these people. And I'm pretty convinced that by the end of when we get to our retirement age, you should have collected a group of people that don't always think like you do, that you can have conversations with, that you need to find some good friends that are going to sustain you in your old age. And I'm pretty sure that you need to do that. So we've talked about older age, what we think we should do. And the younger age sounds very similar. Oh, there's something I wanted to mention was the famous guy, Ray Kroc, in his book, Grinding It Out. Ray
Mhm.
Kroc found McDonald's when he was 55, and he then built his empire from 55 onwards into his 70s, and he built this massive empire. And he didn't think, I'm 55, I'll reach the end of my career. But he obviously thought, I've found something and I'm just starting to build it. So let's take it right back to Ethan and I often teach students. We're still teaching, we're still contributing to their career development. Have you got some advice for them right at the beginning of their careers in architectural technology? What sort of things should they be thinking about now that's going to help them to develop for the next maybe 30, 40, 50 years?
Yeah. First of all, excellent example that you're bringing, and excellent kind of quotes. I'm really enjoying this, Jonathan. When it comes to, I would say, the youth that are starting their, let's say, their journey right now, the first thing I would say is, and what I've seen is to understand that whatever they've learned in university, college, school, and from their parents, a lot of it may not apply in real life. Up until then, you are mostly sheltered. Of course, not everyone's life is perfect. Sheltered doesn't mean perfect. It just means that you're not expected to take care of yourself and carry responsibility. And suddenly you are responsible for almost every aspect of your life. You may even feel responsible for others. Like I managed to help my parents and my family through, let's say, making money and supporting them along the way. That shift in perspective between you're sheltered and you're supposed to be cared for, and now you're the person who's taking care of yourself and others is a major shift. And I think nobody can prepare you for it because suddenly, like, if you don't take care of certain things, they go awry. If you don't pay your rent, you're going to be left on the street. If you don't find a job, you can't get money, for example. So certain things, and a lot of them come all at once. And the challenge that I've seen is that you think that I've studied, I've done the work, now I reap the rewards, which is what school have taught us. And there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is the market and society and the way life unfolds doesn't care about this. Depending on where you live, there might not be any social net, kind of safety nets. There might not be the help that you're looking for. So that shift requires a very tough mentality. And it requires three things. Number one, constant learning, because there's a lot of things you don't know about the world. So you have to be constantly learning. Number two, you have to be very present in the moment. Because a lot of times when you decide on a career, I'm going to be a doctor or I'm going to be a lawyer or something, the success of that career usually comes in 5 years, in 10 years, or whatever. You have to work your way to it. And you may have accumulated some educational debt along the way, like to study. So if you anchor yourself in the moment, you can deal with the challenges in the moment. And the last thing that you need, true goal setting. Most of the goals that you're being asked, like, what do you want to do? Most people ask you, what do you want to do? Not what do you want to have, what kind of life you want to live. Very rarely do people engage with that. Usually it's all about the career, the job you want to do. Very rarely do people ask you about the quality of life you want to live. And I don't mean money. What really brings you joy? These are conversations that you don't have. So these three things are very important. Learning, being anchored in the moment, and have true goal settings that are inspired by your true purpose. Once you have that you are way on your, way ahead of anyone in your age at that time.
That's fantastic. And I love those three things: the constant learning, the present in the moment, and true goal setting. I do that a lot. But we're talking about youth. And I guess many of my students may not be defined as youth because I'm teaching a tertiary institute. The students often range from straight out of high school to 30s. They've actually reached that middle of their career and they're actually redesigning their career. They want to do architectural technology. They want to design buildings. They want to contribute to the world and make the world better by better design. And a lot of them, they've started that idea. But I love that idea of the constant learning, present in the moment. And as soon as you said present in the moment, it made me think about riding my motorbike. Because when you're riding your motorbike, you really have to be present in the moment because so much goes on. And when you talked about the true goal setting, what kind of life do you want to bring? What brings you joy? And it made me think about myself and what brings me joy, which is to contribute to people. And I've been extremely fortunate to teach people and to make their lives better and to help them. And I get a lot of joy from that. So I think that my podcast is one of those things where I hope that by listening to it, I'm helping people and I'm bringing them joy.
100%. I think what you're doing is awesome because contributing probably is one of these things that has so many, I would say, benefits that people would not fully understand until they do it. It might seem like contribution is an act of being selfless, but beyond that, I think the idea that you need to contribute requires three components. Number one, in order to contribute something, in order to add value, you have to have value. So it's by doing that, you're actually proving to yourself by helping others that you're capable. It's a very powerful thing to engage in. Just by the act of by stepping up and saying, I can contribute, I can add value, I can help, that changes the relationship that you have with the world. Because in the world, we go around and we're trying to get paid, we're trying to get people to recognize us, we're trying to get acknowledged. But now you've left all of that desire, that hunger to receive, and maybe the world doesn't give you. We're always sometimes frustrated because we're not getting that. But suddenly you step out of that and say, I'm here to contribute. So you're telling yourself without really knowing it that you're capable, that you're powerful, that you are a choice, that you have a different position in the world. That's a very powerful place to be. The second thing is you see your true impact in the world. And that is really important because a lot of times we go through life and we do work. Like you look back and you say, I worked for 20 years as a lawyer, but what did I really do? Like I helped a few clients make a little bit of money, or you're a marketer or something. But when you actually contribute to someone, you can see the impact of your work in somebody's life. And that is so powerful because it's similar to if you have kids, it's a similar thing that if you contributed, if you gave your all to someone, that as they grow. And it's similar to that feeling, not the same, but similar to that feeling. And it's extremely powerful. And the third thing is you once you do that, you've already achieved something that you can take with you and cannot be taken away from you. Awards, somebody can win more awards from you. Money is, there will be people who make more money than you. Anything that you do, there is people that will do more than you. But when you contribute to somebody's life, the contribution is so unique because you're you and they're them. And nobody can take that away from you. So that's why I encourage people to contribute from a younger age. And I don't mean charity or going down to the street to helping a homeless person. That is contribution, of course, but there are so many forms of contribution. You can contribute by being there for someone. You can contribute by teaching someone what you know, even if what you know is little, but teaching someone who is a peer to you. There's so many ways you can contribute. And by doing that, you change the dynamics and the quality of how you experience life, even for a little. And that is extremely powerful. I think contribution is a very powerful thing that you mentioned, John.
I think it's probably time we wrapped it up. And I've got to thank you very much for giving up your time. It's wonderful to talk to you. I've really enjoyed our conversations. We had a conversation before we did our recording, and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you very much. You'll find links to Hussein's website and book in the show notes.
Thank you very much for having me. You asked wonderful questions, and it's such a great conversation. I enjoyed it.